Welcome to the Church of Thomas, Fellowship of Soldiers, 9-11. Now, many people that I have met have been veterans and people who have fought for our country. And when they come home, they are changed. They are not as carefree, and they often have traumas that reside deep in their psyches. Sometimes we can treat them, and sometimes we need to just work around their pain. Comforting them is important, but a basic understanding of what they went through is very hard to come by. But I have a story that might help you to understand a little closer what it is that is going on. I have a quote for you, Reconciler, Gospel of Thomas, verse 58. Jesus said, "Blessed is the person who has suffered, and in the suffering found the lessons that are hidden in it, and in the finding of the lessons acquires life." Now, my story is about the Lord of the Rings. The fellowship in the Lord of the Rings was made up of a whole bunch of strangers. Most soldiers are not going into basic training with a whole gaggle of their friends from high school. I know that that has happened a few times in the past, but it's not as common as it used to be. So basically, these people are bonding with total strangers. They find a common cause, a common protection, a common goal. And the Fellowship of the Ring, they knew it would be hard, and likely, like our own soldiers, they would be experiencing pain and suffering. Some soldiers try to return and are able to adapt. Their return is sweet. They understand what they were fighting for, and they are able to leave the horrors behind. And they don't feel it as strongly, but there are others who will never get over it. When you are fighting in a war zone, all of the basic training that you got as a small child interferes with what you were taught in basic training to become a military person. The basic training you get as a small child is don't hit each other, don't bite, don't scratch, don't take things from people, don't hurt anybody, don't kill. All of that is turned upside down, so that even people who you would be more than happy to run across the road and save are now potential enemies. One of the most horrific things that I heard from my friends who came back from Vietnam was that they had always loved children, but now they couldn't be around them. The Viet Cong had developed a concept called, let's load up the small child with explosive and send it into a bunch of GIs who are handing out candy bars. Boom, no more GIs. Well, now they're still doing it. They're using women in hijabs, and they are using children. And these people may or may not be interested in blowing themselves up, but maybe their families are being held hostage. But it creates a conflict in your mind when what you've always valued becomes a danger. And you have to understand when you get back that those situations are not happening anymore and try and go back to what you had before. But it's very hard. One of the reasons why so many soldiers want to re-enlist is that they feel that, for whatever reason, that they are letting their fellow soldiers down that are still in the war zone. When they leave, they may know that the mission hasn't been completed. Obviously, they're not all coming home. But I think that we need to deal with the ones who manage to survive to come home with compassion. Returning veterans have one of the highest rates of unemployment, They have the highest rates of psychological problems that are undiagnosed, and when they are diagnosed, they may not be treated. They are also the largest percentage of homeless people. So the next time you see a homeless person, try and look at them through the eyes of someone you may have served with, that you had felt danger with. In the story of the Lord of the Rings, Frodo was unable to cope. His friend Sam, who had carried him on his back and gotten him through the basic things, all he remembered was that he was with his friend. The horrors of the moment receded into a bad memory, and he was able to get married and have little kids and move on with his life. Frodo, on the other hand, only had one solace, and that was to sail off into the west with the elves. This is the equivalent of suicide. Suicide is also one of the highest risks among returning veterans. Compassion, support, and comfort is what these people need, while understanding that unless you were a veteran too, you probably will not understand what they went through, but try to accept that they are changed. God bless the whole world, no exception. Angel Eliza.